So this one is called Tummo Pranayama. This is the most powerful breath work that I know of, actually. And so as a result, there are definitely, things that you should not practice this if you have these things. So avoid doing this Tummo breath work. Avoid it if there's any cardiovascular issues such as hypertension, heart disease, arrhythmias, neurological issues such as epilepsy, history of fainting, psychological things such as anxiety disorders, panic disorders, bipolar disorder, or psychosis. If you have severe lung disease, obviously if you're pregnant, don't do this. And yeah, so that's the main things to be considerate of, right? But actually, I once had a woman that I was working with she was working in London. She was actually working in the Houses of Parliament, and whilst in the Houses of Parliament, she had an asthma attack. So she had quite bad asthma. She suffered from a very bad asthma attack, and it was one of those things that, by the time the emergency services were able to get to her, they basically said, if they had been another minute or two later, it would have been very, very bad. It would have been a very different story had they not reached her in the time that they had. And so after this incident, we were working together, and she wanted to recover. She wanted to, do something that would help her in recovering from this severe asthma attack that she had. And so we did this breath work, and when she went for her follow-up checkup appointment, the results were fantastic. The doctors were very impressed, very happy, and she was obviously doing a multitude of things to take care of herself, but this breath work would have been the one that really helps to sort of bring her system back under control and bring the energy that she needed into her body, bring the oxygen she needed into her body. So Tummo Pranayama. This is more commonly known by practitioners of Wim Hof. Some people know him as the Iceman. He's used this breath work to, for an extended period of time, expose himself to severe cold. So I think the actual experiment, for example, one of the many that he's done, was he was submerged in a tank of water, ice water, and using this breath work, he was able to keep his core temperature at the temperature that it should be. So they had scientists and everybody was tracking him and studying him and obviously making sure that nothing was going to go wrong. But for the whole 30 minutes, whilst being submerged in ice cold water, his body temperature didn't drop because he was using this breath work to keep himself at a good temperature. So the Tummo Pranayama. The way that we do this is you breathe in as deep as you can and then exhale quickly out through the mouth. Okay, so it's we do that. One round is 90 seconds. Okay, so for 90 seconds, and if you've not done this before, it can bring you some strange feelings, some strange sensations. I've had people reporting that they felt tingling in the fingers, they felt tension in their body. Sometimes it can make your hands sort of cramp like this as well. It can do a lot of strange things. Some people have also said that they've had a bit of visual hallucination and auditory hallucinations. So, it is a powerful breath work. If whatever you're experiencing during the 90 seconds when we're doing the breath work, if it is too much, stop, let your, bring your breathing back under control, let it settle for a moment, and just observe yourself and calm yourself down. Whatever it is, obviously don't push this. If it's new to you, tread lightly, don't try and get it in one practice. It's going to be something to revisit. It can be a daily thing, or every other day, just regularly trying this practice to see if you can improve your ability to breathe, essentially. So I think the most common thing people struggle with Tummo Pranayama is the discomfort in the nose, right? Because you're breathing into a capacity that you might never have done before. And especially if the air is cold, you're going to really feel that in your nose, right? So it can feel a bit uncomfortable in the nose, but again, if it's tolerable, if you're happy to continue, then continue. If it feels like too much, don't push it, all right? But we can do this breath work for 90 seconds. And then when you do this practice by yourself, you'll go, after the 90 seconds, you exhale and you hold the exhale. So your lungs are empty, there's no breath in your body. You're holding the exhale for as long as you can, and time yourself, right? And what you want to see is how long you're able to hold your breath for, hold your lungs empty for. And this will be indicative of how energy efficient your body is, the health of your internal organs. There's a whole other thing that I could already spend another half an hour talking about, but we'll do the practice for now. And it's if you're interested in finding out what benefits this does for the body, I'd recommend looking into the Wim Hof, as he is the sort of the figurehead right now of this practice. Okay, so sitting comfortably, long through the spine, shoulder blades backwards, closing your eyes. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Keep it going nice and strong. In through the nose, out through the mouth. In through the nose, out through the mouth. As you do this practice, you're going to feel heat in the body, you're going to feel warmth in the body, you're going to feel a lot more energy, a lot more power going through your body. And if you're not used to this, it might feel a bit strange, a bit uncomfortable. But again, try and maintain the intensity, keep going. If it's too much, drop it, have a breather. But otherwise, if you can, rejoining us as we continue with the breath work. Over halfway there, keep it going. Ten more seconds, keep it going nice and strong. And then deep breath in. Exhale. Lungs empty, focus inside, soften your body, relax. When you must, settling back into your regular breath. So that is Tummo Pranayama. Very strong practice. If you're feeling low on energy, this will restore your energy. What you're doing is you're over saturating your body with oxygen. And so once you've done this breath work, depending on, again, how efficient your body is, how healthy your body is, you can sit there for a long period of time without the need to breathe, and you're going to be in this sort of very interesting state of consciousness where you're so engrossed in holding your breath that when you come out and you see how long you've held your breath for, you might be quite surprised. Because you go into this sort of space inside of yourself where sort of you don't think about time. Time doesn't exist. when you have this kind of expansiveness feeling, and so that when you do eventually come out of it and you see the time, you're like, wow, that's unexpected. So powerful breath work. Again, all 3 breath works, please consider the contraindications that I've mentioned before we did the breath works.